Welcome to Something to Talk About. Here we are at King's, and we've got food. We got a lot of food. We got this is the best, honestly, the cut and pica. And then you guys, you have what, longanisa?
Yeah, did an audible, added longanisa to the fried rice olive.
And then we've given
I
nothing
got braces. I got braces, so I have to be careful.
Listen, it is Pride Month on Guam, and with Pride, I have a couple of people that are employees of Sorensen Media Group who I see every day. I respect greatly and love deeply. This would be Shimmy, Shimmy Shack. Do you want to tell people your government name?
No, I'm Shimmy Shack.
Okay. in case somebody's looking for her. And then you know him. He's the 4-Hour Phill. His government name is?
Phill Leon Guerrero. I mean, collectors know that I don't got no money. So.
So don't try and come after me.
You can call me Shawnee, though. We can do that.
Okay. Well, we call you Shimmy Shack from Power 98. I'm glad you guys are here. I didn't even realize you were wearing the colors of your station.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that.
But you all multicolored.
Well,
I like that.
You know, every color of the rainbow in June.
Yeah. That, you know, I've been reading Becoming by Michelle Obama.
Uh-huh.
And when they legalized same-sex marriages in the United States, she talked about in her book the night that it happened. They had just come from the Sandy Hook funerals, right, or memorial service, and they had arrived back in Washington, and she said that the White House was lit up. And she went absolutely crazy because she said there were thousands of people on the street in front of the White House, and she wanted to be a part of it, but she couldn't be a part of it because she can't be out in the open like that. So she escaped from the White House with her daughter Malia, and were able to be on the South Lawn, just, you know, a little off to the side. But it was this moment that she shared that was, I think Lassia Casil told me she cried, and I was very moved by it. But that day in the history of the United States was the hugest coming out party, I think, that we have had. Save Guam and our marriage equality law that's already been passed here. But over the years that you have both experienced in your life, the kinds of challenges there are with people not understanding. What are the moments that you believe are the ones that define where we have come in such a long time?
I think that, especially in the context of Pride, it always starts with the individual. So, you know, like the major milestone in any person who identifies as someone in the LGBTQ community is that personal acceptance, and whether it's coming out or just self-admittance of, you know, who you are and who you love, that's always important. But you know, when we talk about how the government plays a role in feeling like we are welcome and that we are people, certainly equal protection under the law. Every time there's an anti-discrimination law that's passed, anytime there are you know, gender expression bills that are passed, anytime people are being treated equally, it's always a good thing. And you know, national marriage equality was one of those moments where you don't have to worry about the state you're living in. You don't have to worry about what party is going to be in power in that particular election cycle. It is something that we can sort of count on in the future, and that's always a good thing, because sometimes, you know, whether or not people who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender feel accepted could just be dependent on the moment in time.
Yeah. Then you both have grown up in a period of non-acceptance and non-tolerance. Maybe, I don't know what your story is, Shimmy, but you didn't grow up on Guam.
I didn't. I feel it was really a turning point for me, as Phil said, admitting to yourself that, okay, I'm a little different, especially I had 5 siblings, you know, and I knew I was just the oddball out, right? And then grew up in the church. My dad's a minister.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Grew up in the church, church every Sunday, second service if need be, you know what I mean? So it was just unheard of. You don't even think about the same sex, you know what I mean?
You wouldn't even dare.
No.
To explore.
You'd be like, no, you tripping. Really back in, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it wasn't until 8th grade, I was like, hold on, man, you know? I
Yeah.
started digging my best friend for a little bit. I was like, am I supposed to be thinking about her like that?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But it was at that point where I was like, okay, all right, just accept it, admit it. But I couldn't say anything. I couldn't go to my mom, be like, Mom, I'm feeling this kind of way because I don't know what's happening to me, you know? Like I said, you get taught in church, a woman loves a man loves a woman, you know what I mean? So I didn't come out until I was 25.
Was that because you still were afraid?
Yes. And then I lived with my mom. Not my mom always loved me, but like I said, it was just one of those things you don't want. Yeah. So I didn't tell her for a long time because I'm like, okay, I have to be ready if she kicked me out or if she's like, no, I don't want to accept this. So I was just scared for a long time. But I was like, you know what? I'm grown. I got to be on my own sometime. So I sat her down and I told her because I identify as bisexual.
Well, you know, here's the thing, Philip, you also grew up at a time of this whole argument. You were an adult man when we were talking about same-sex marriage on Guam.
I remember 2009.
That was the
yeah.
hardest radio conversation to have on a daily basis because they had old nanas
Yeah.
that felt the way they felt because of their religious foundations, but they had sons and daughters that were lesbians and gays, and they were wanting to protect them. At the same time, they were so embarrassed at how people thought. Was that a challenge for you and your family? And you can eat, by the way.
A decade ago, when
Yeah.
then Senator B.J. Cruz was putting together his, you know, it was civil unions at the time, right? It wasn't even a full marriage. It was very hard.
Yeah.
I
How
grew
old were
up-
you?
You're gonna. I was in my early 20s.
Okay. That's what I meant. You were a grown man. You were an adult.
Yeah,
Okay.
I grew up in the church like so many people did here. I was a tenorist. And to sort of see a place that I respected so much, that I knew contributed so much to a positive upbringing for me. Sorry, I'm sort of getting emotional
I'm
here.
sorry.
But to
You were wrestling with your religious beliefs and your the expectations of you of a good Chamorro boy.
Man.
it was really graphic too.
Yeah.
You know, like the reasons that the church was saying this was a bad thing was really embarrassing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really did appreciate, like you said, that maybe some people that we could assume would have very old school, narrow views about our community, because they had such great love for their sons and their daughters. It was great to hear that support, because it was really like it gets, obviously I'm still emotional about it 10 years later. It gets me mad to this day.
Was it the people outside your family, or were the people, are you touched by the people who are inside your family?
It was both. You know, my sort of coming out story, I didn't have that, like, I'm on a swinging bench and we're crying and hugging and everything. You know, sometimes it was just a matter of fact, like, hey, by the way, sometimes it was just as simple as saying, like, oh, that guy's hot in front of a friend of mine. But one of the things that I really had to learn for myself is that it wasn't a big deal. It didn't need to be a big deal. No one was, you know, gonna treat me anything differently. I'm not, you know, the most straight-passing gay guy in the world. So to a certain extent, like, my family already knew, my friends already knew. They were already anticipating it. And so it was just very liberating to sort of come to that conclusion that you don't have to have this long, protracted, young adult novel type coming out.
Mine was so different from his. So different.
Well, you also grew up, you know, in Texas.
Yeah, it was just,
And-
it was so, you know, I'm glad that you had that, at least that, you know, they kind of had an idea already.
Yeah.
It wasn't nothing shocking because,
I feel very lucky for that.
yeah, it
Because you
was,
you wrestled with
I
it.
was at, you know, I'm not a dressy kind of girl. I don't wear dresses. If you catch me in a dress, it's a
It's a
total
good
rare
day,
occasion.
yeah.
Yeah, and
If you catch you in a dress, my mother used to say, I'm dying.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
I mean, just to have to live that life, you
For
know,
that
because I
long.
was so scared. I was like, ooh, what if somebody know, or what if my mom find out? Like, what is she gonna think? Is she gonna be like, no? It was just so many things went through your head. So when, like, unlike Phil, luckily for him, he didn't have to like plan it out. Like, it took me 20-something years to tell my
Yeah.
mom, you know, like, and even to that day, and we had an orchestrated, like, crying fest. She was like, I love my mom. My mom and my brother are my two biggest supporters. I love them very much. You know, my mom, she was like, as a Christian woman, she was like, of course, I don't want that lifestyle for you, but I love you. She said, there's nothing you can do that will ever turn me away from you. And my brother, my brother Rodney, he's all gung-ho for me. He's like, whatever you want to do, whatever you need, I have your back. And honestly, if it wasn't for them two, it would have been disaster.
Listen, we got to take a break, and I want him to hack into his eggs because they're
Yes,
just sitting
please.
there.
Oh, yeah,
I can
let me
just
see.
see them going. So we're going to take a quick break and continue. We're with Phill Leon Guerrero and Shimmy Shack here on Something to Talk About. We'll be right back. What I like about interviewing, like family is that, Shimmy's got in the middle, she's got a spoon going on both sides. And nobody's afraid to eat on camera because I let a guests.
We came here to eat.
But we
baby.
come in the media, you take a meal whenever you can get a meal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not even
So there's no shame here. So we were talking about your personal experiences about telling family members. You had an impetus, this conversation that was going on. There was this active conversation, and it was, like you said, there was it was graphic and it was gross. And
it was in the newspaper of our church.
yeah,
You know,
the church, I don't think handled it very well at all.
they and I hate to bring it up again, but it was the comparison of extreme radical Muslims do it right because they put gays to death.
Yeah.
That was the
There was a
implication,
lot
and
of that.
That was,
Yeah.
I mean, anyone should find that offensive. And
That was offensive, and then there was the medical research that also became part of your morning routine,
yeah.
reading it in church. It was a lot.
imagining like nanas and tatas reading that and associating that
Yeah.
with love was very again it still makes me mad. I loved the upbringing that the church gave me, and the fact that it no longer felt like a safe space or a welcoming space.
Yeah.
Really, I still wrestle with it today.
So you don't go to
Yes.
church anymore. You
They
don't.
still
yeah.
do a prayer for the the
Yep.
protection of family, and when you read between the lines, you don't even have to go that far. It's pray against the evils
Yeah.
of gays,
Yeah.
and I just can't put myself in a situation where I'm in a room full of people
And I know you're judging me.
professing, a will for our God to intercede in how I'm living my life. That's, I just can't do it, and I wait for the day that I can return. I know that my friends in the Episcopal Church sometimes call up to let people know that there are more welcoming sects of Christianity. Which is great, if you can find a way to keep your faith and to not have to deny. And that really is, the sort of crux of pride. I know that, this airs throughout the month, but recently, there's this notion of straight pride parades, and one has just been approved in Boston. And the notion of why is gay pride important? Why isn't there straight pride? And it's because still to this day, there are people that are denying themselves. Still to this day, there are people who are afraid to be who they are in a public space. And pride is an acknowledgement of you spent decades in the closet, I spent decades in the closet.
It's a chance for us to be free. Like, I don't have to worry about you gonna judge me because I got on a pair of slacks and a fitted, a cap or something like that.
And to
Like,
be visible to
I
other
can
people.
just be me. I can hold my, if I'm dating someone, I can hold their hand. I can walk around with Phill. We can just be ourselves. Like,
Yeah.
it's not about like, oh, I'm into women. Like, it's not about
Yeah.
that. It's not anything like that. It's like he said.
Well,
an
it's still
expression.
this is still a personal aspect of your life. I mean,
Yeah, this
the
is-
expressions
how
of
can we
love or
express who we are?
all of that is still a private
We
aspect
just
of your
want to
life.
express
Yeah.
who we are in freedom, because a guy
It's
in his
positive
girl- yeah.
visibility to me.
Yeah.
It's sending a message to that 5-year-old kid that feels like a freak that it's going to be okay and you don't have to feel ashamed.
Yes.
I have a question about your feelings when you were a young boy, and at what age as an adult man, where parents will justify a child's sort of, you know, these feelings that are stirred up. At what age can a child say be identified as something or self-identify?
To me, it's when attraction kicked in, and that was sort of around puberty.
Okay.
But
So it's
you
like-
know, I see pictures of myself at 4 years old, and you can tell that I was fabulous then. So you know, like even absent,
Yeah.
even
absent.
absent, you know, an attraction toward men.
Yeah.
You know, that's
You
why I said
still
like nobody was
played
really
it out.
surprised. You know,
You're still playing it out.
I was sashaying down the runway before I even know what sashaying or a runway was.
Yeah.
I'm with that. Like, I don't think
You
you can
too?
really give a time or age. Because my mom had to keep me out my brother's clothes.
Oh.
I was like, I want to wear. She's like, what are you going to wear to school? I was like, I want to wear his shirt. She was like, no. Look, you have this right
That's
here.
a cute little
But
dress.
see, that was before
like, no,
eighth
no,
grade
no.
when Shimmy started developing
Yeah,
same-sex
but,
attraction.
I was in like
so.
third, second grade when she's like, what are you going to wear to school today? I'm like, and I want to play my brother's G.I. Joe.
okay.
So I don't think it's just as simple as like when did you know you were attracted to men, because there's so many traits
Other things that are
aside
happening, yeah.
from attraction that sort of, you know, defines who we are.
When this conversation, I think that we hit something when marriage, same-sex marriage law was passed. I remember it was heartbreaking. I was heartbroken for then Speaker B.J. Cruz,
Yeah.
or Senator B.J. Cruz at the time, because he thought that introducing this measure, which actually came out of the Youth Congress under Derek Bosahills,
Yeah.
and introducing it in the bigger house, he thought after a while that nobody backed him up because it was such a polarizing issue that he felt like he was the only one that was waving this flag.
Sticking his neck out.
And he stuck his neck out, and everybody said it was political suicide, and he said he wasn't going to run again because he thought that he was abandoned by people and was out there, and he didn't think that he could ever recover. But now we celebrate this moment, and it has been, you know, an amazing time since. Now look, fast forward, Josh Tenorio, you know, the only
Wasn't the
lieutenant
first
governor
open-
in the U.S.
First in the nation.
Wow.
The first in the nation, a lieutenant governor. And yesterday, the celebration with every member of the government, you know, wearing colorful lei, pledging their support. I mean, there's a lot that's happened. The flag, the rainbow flag, flying, you know, alongside the, you know, the poles in the front yard of Adelou. All of this stuff has just been amazing.
I think that in years past and decades past, it took such almost an insane amount of bravery to be out front of this. And not to say that, you know, being who you are as a member of the LGBT community isn't an act of bravery even in 2019, because it is. But when you felt alone and isolated, when you felt like your community couldn't even be supportive of you because there's so many concerns about, I don't want to be outed, I don't want professional repercussions, I don't want personal repercussions. It really did take very brave individuals to sort of lay this groundwork and foundation, and now we're all enjoying maybe not universal acceptance, but widespread enough to not feel like it's political suicide anymore to be an out and proud candidate. It's not political suicide anymore to have LGBT friendly events at the seat of our government.
Yeah.
And it is really amazing to see how far we've come. And I hope that, again, the positive visibility of what people in our community can accomplish and what we have to contribute to society can only foster a better time in the future so that we can get to universal acceptance.
And as much as we have gone through tolerance and acceptance and all of the other words to describe this, what do you know, there are still families who feel this way. There are still little boys and little girls that are out there still afraid.
Yeah.
And so, you know, you know, tell me what you would say to a little boy or a little girl of that.
I already cried once this episode, Patty.
I'm sorry.
No, what I will say is that you're never going to be able to love, this is like RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, how the hell are you going to love somebody else? But, you know, everything in your life that's going to be positive moving forward will only be benefited from self-acceptance.
Exactly.
And self-acceptance also means that you're no longer heavily dependent on the acceptance of others. And that is such a fearful process for a lot of people in the closet is, what if I lose the love of this person? What if I lose the acceptance of this person because I come out? And coming out is about acknowledging that you are happy with who you are.
Perfect.
And that's the most important thing for you as an individual, because the only way to make others happy is to be truly happy with yourself.
I couldn't have said it any better. That's the only way I got to live my life. Just accepting who I am and being okay. If my dad didn't want to talk to me, if my mom was like no, or my brother turned away, I had to be okay with all those things, because if I'm taking on this lifestyle, you got to take what comes with it.
Yeah.
And once I started living my truth and just being okay with who I am, my life has moved forward more than I could ever imagine.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of happenings this month. And what is it that you want people to, if there's any events that you want them to go to, people who don't understand, people who want to be educated?
I hope, by the time this airs, I hope people went to the Guam Museum chat, because Speaker BJ Cruz, who was our first openly gay judge, our first openly gay senator, Josh Tenorio, the nation's first openly gay lieutenant governor, is going to be there too. So it's really going to be a good perspective about how the possibilities are endless, and how Guam is fostering this environment where you can reach the pinnacle of success, the pinnacle of your dreams, and being who you are isn't going to be take that away from you.
God, you guys should be in the Liberation Day parade. That would be a hoot. Think about it.
Never ran, but I guess I'm always a liberation queen.
Oh my God! See, that's where my love for Phill
I'm
goes.
excited for Pride Month.
Yeah.
This is going to be like, now that I'm an adult and I get to experience things full on,
You're
'cause
gonna-
going back,
yeah.
When I was in Houston, I didn't get a chance to go for so many reasons. I just didn't go. And then, now that I'm just fully out there, I'm excited. I'm so excited for Pride Month.
You look so happy. I
I'm
just love
so
this girl.
excited.
Hey, listen, that's about it for us on Something to Talk About. It is Pride Month on Guam. Find out something that you don't know. Go seek out the
I'ma find out this
information
Cutting
and love everybody. Love everybody.
Know
All
your
right.
herstory.
No history.
Thanks for joining us. All right.